friends. Today we are going to show how to configure an Active Directory server and how to add a client to an Active Directory server and how to migrate Active Directory services from 2008 R2 to 2016 server. So for this I'm using three virtual machines. One is 2008 R2 server, 2008 R2 VM. For additional domain controller, I'm using 2012 box, 2016 box, and for client, I'm using 2012 box. We can use Windows 7 or Windows 8 or Windows 10 desktop, but I'm using Windows 2012. So to build an Active Directory server, we need a static IP. So let's start building an Active Directory server. For that, we need to go to Server Manager. Then we need to first configure DNS service, install. Once DNS is configured, then I already configured static IP. Let me show you. So I have given IP as 192.168.0.10 and DNS is 192.168.0.10. So gateway is this, and I have already changed server name to AD001. Once that is done, then we'll go for Active Directory domain services. Oops. So it's asking to install .NET 3.5. So we'll do that too. So it will take some time. So installation is completed. In 2003, we used to see like to configure an Active Directory, we used to go to command prompt and used to run dcpromo.exe, which is not there starting 2008. So we need to run from we need to run the wizard from server manager. We'll start that. So we'll be creating a new domain in a new forest, and what is the FQDN for the domain. So we'll be giving the fully qualified domain here. So I'm going to give my Active Directory name as abc.com, as it is a test lab. So I have given that name. So it's going to ask you like what is the forest functional level. So I'll be using Windows 2008 R2 server as I don't have any 2003 boxes in my environment. So click next. So it will check for any DNS configuration. So I didn't configure any DNS before because while creating Active Directory it will configure DNS. So it's just examining the DNS configuration. So in next step it is showing like select additional options for this Active Directory domain controller. As DNS service is already configured, so we are able to see the information on additional information box. So it's saying the first domain controller in the forest must be in a global catalog server and cannot be an RODC. So we are not going to build RODC. It's a domain controller, not a read-only domain controller. So this is the first domain controller in the forest. So it will be like it will the global catalog server as two. Okay, no problem. We'll proceed. Here we can these are the default paths for selected default by Active Directory installation wizard. If we can create additional drives in the server and we can configure it here so that it will be easy for troubleshooting part all these things, but I'm going to select it as default. So I need to provide the restored mode administrator password here, which is different from the login password for Active Directory. So we need to save this password for future reference if we have any issues in Active Directory or we need to restore any Active Directory for any troubleshooting. We need this password, so always recommend to store this password safely. So I will give a password which I can remember here. So it's almost done now. So we can also export the configuration from here so that we can use it for adding additional domain controller or something like that. So you can see the summary here. I'm going to click next now, and now Active Directory installation wizard will start building Active Directory. It will take some time, and I will select reboot on completion so that once it is done it will go ahead and reboot the server. So once the installation is completed, the server got rebooted. Now the server is up now. So ABC is the domain name. So I will log into the server. Okay, we logged into the server successfully. Let's check. Whenever server Active Directory server is built, we are able to see Active Directory use on computers, sites and services, domains and trusts. Before that, we will check our IP, whether the DNS server is configured properly or not. See, we're able to see the localhost IP, which we need to change it. So this is the DNS server IP. Now we'll go to Active Directory use in computers. And we'll check everything looks fine. So it's showing as AD001 as global catalog server and showing the site name here. Looks good. And we'll see the operation masters. So we are able to see that RID master is AD001, PDC, infrastructure. Everything looks fine. And we also check events. We check for any errors. Looks good. So Active Directory server is fine. So we'll create some user accounts. So I'm going to create another admin account here. So user not required to change your next logon and password never expire. I'll make this user domain admin as well as enterprise admin. And a normal user too. I will remove this. In general, we need to click. We no need to select all these things, but you need to select this thing so that whenever a normal user, like he tries to log in on first time, it will ask for change password. But this is a test environment. I'm not going to select that. Does not match. Okay. Then caps is on. Okay. So I have created a test admin and a test client. It is now we will see DNS. So you can also use command. Okay. So whenever we configure an Active Directory server, these folders gets created like MCS, DCS, sites, TCP, UDP, domain DNS and forestry DNS. So if you go for any interview, sometimes they will ask you this question: what are the default folders created when you add a server to when you create an Active Directory server integrated with DNS? So these are the folders created, and so whenever a DNS created, we are able to see that forward lookup zone and reverse lookup zones. We need to create these. We need to create reverse lookup zone now. Click on new zone, primary, and it should be selected Active Directory integrated. So we'll give it default. We'll give the IP subnet dot 0. Click next. So we'll select this one so that the DNS entries created automatically. If you select only secure DNS updates or do not allow dynamic updates, you need to create the entries manually. So what is start of authority and start of authority record and NS record? Whenever the AD Active Directory is configured, the first records created is NS record and start of authority record. So everything looks fine now. Now we will go ahead and add our client as well as additional domain controller. So before we make an additional domain controller, we need to add the server to Active Directory and make it a member server. We will do that now. So before that, we'll check the server name. It's ADC001. Looks good. We'll give the domain name abc.com. Sometimes if firewall is enabled, we may get the error. Let's see. Oops, we got the error. Let's check whether we are able to ping the Active Directory server from here. Ping AD. So it's not added, so we cannot ping the host name. Ping IP 168.0.10. So we are able to ping the server. Let's check firewall. So firewall is enabled. Oops. We'll turn off firewall and see whether it works. It should work after firewall is disabled. Let's check the IP. IP looks good. Okay, the issue got fixed now. The issue was I have assigned same IP to ADC as well as client, which caused the issue. So I have changed the IP for client, that is 192.168.0.12, and after that issue got fixed. Now we are able to see the login screen, like the screen to add the ADC to domain controller. And now we'll reboot the server. We'll also add the client to the Active Directory. Let's fix this. Okay, the issue got fixed. It is nothing but firewall was enabled. I disabled the firewall, then I was able to connect to ADC or domain controller. Okay, now we are connected to abc.com is our domain controller. We'll just reboot the server. So now we should be able to see the host records for this, for the client and ADC in the DNS server. Okay, it's getting rebooted. So once it gets rebooted and once we log in, we'll be able to see the host record for this too. Let's wait and see. Meanwhile, we'll log into ADC. Okay, we logged in. So we'll make this server as additional domain controller. For that, we need to configure domain services using add remove programs. Sorry, using add roles and features. So we will be selecting domain services. Before that, we need to configure DNS so that the DNS, once the ADC is configured, the Active Directory, the DNS is integrated with Active Directory server. So the DNS will also be replicated to this server. So we'll be able to see all DNS entries once we made this server as ADC server. So we'll wait till the DNS service is configured. Meanwhile, we'll check the client. Okay, the client is ready now. We'll log in. Okay, there are no logon services available to the service, the logon request. We'll check what's the issue. Okay, I'm able to log into client now. Client is connected to domain controller. It was a firewall issue which got fixed. So now we're able to see the host record for client DC001, which is 192.168.0.122. I have given that previously 12, which is also in use. So I changed it. So done a couple of troubleshooting steps and got fixed. Now we already installed Active Directory service on this server. Sorry, we have installed DNS service. Before that, it got installed. Now we need to install Active Directory service. So it will take some time. Now Active Directory domain service is installed, configured. Now we need to make it as additional domain services, additional domain server. We need to promote this as ADC. So we'll select add a domain controller to an existing domain. Okay, so will be like default it will be like selecting DNS as well as global catalog server. If you want to make it a read-only domain controller, we need to select this, but we want to make it an additional domain controller. As going forward in our next video, we will be promoting this ADC as domain controller. So we want to select this. We need to provide the directory services remote restore mode password. We'll select this. Okay, and before, okay, click next. So we can select the primary domain controller, or you can select any domain controller, that is fine. We'll set it as default. Click next. You can review the selected settings here. Click next. We may see few warnings here, but we can ignore this and click install. Now it will take some time. So we have configured the server as ADC and it got rebooted. Okay, our ADC is up now. Now we are able to see Active Directories and computer sites and services, domain centers, and administrative center. So we'll go to use and computers and see. Also we'll go to DNS. So looks DNS is also replicated. Looks good. Now we're able to see ADC under domain controllers. Previously it was under computers. We are able to see all the users and default users. So everything looks fine. We will leave the server for replication with the Active Directory for some time, and I will show you how to transfer FSMO roles from existing domain controller to additional domain controller, and make ADC as DC and decommission domain controller. Thanks for watching.